going off precedent.
Tim, you just got here. You completely missed me.
What?
Myself in the microphone.
See, I can't hear you, see? Can't hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ringing in my ears.
thanks everyone for being here. We'll open up this press conference with Don Berry, WBNS.
Coach, take a look at the quarterback race as you saw it on Saturday. What jumped out, and what should we take away from what we saw, I guess?
Well, one thing, I met with the quarterbacks, and, I made the comment that the only thing that was different about Saturday's practice was the fact that, we had students there and we had the media there. Other than that, it was just another practice. But what it does make you realize is how important every rep is. And that's, my job, and that's Billy Fessler and Brian Hartline's job, is to make sure that, they understand every single play matters. And we got to get better every day. That being said, it's been, 3 guys getting after it every day, improvement across the board. There's been good days on all fronts, but then there's been other days not so good. They're growing, they're learning. There's nobody that's that much further ahead of the other one right now, so they're going to continue to compete, and this is a big week for them. And Saturday will be a big day for them as well, get in front of everybody and have an opportunity to compete.
Folks, we keep it to one question. Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Speaking of QB competitions, you were here a little over a year, and you had to deal with Joe Burrow versus Dwayne Haskins. How nerve-wracking was that for you at the time, and how has that helped you, in subsequent QB competitions?
It's nerve-wracking when you don't have a quarterback. It's a good problem when you have a room full of quarterbacks, and that's part of the process is finding the right one and trying to do the best decision you can. And there's a lot that goes with it. And in that situation, had 2 great quarterbacks, and they both had great careers. So that's not the one that's as nerve-wracking. When nerve-wracking is when you don't have one. So, but yeah, every year there's just been a different challenge. Figuring out who that guy's going to be, and figuring out where their growth takes them. This is a situation where you have Lincoln, who's been here now for 3 years, and Julian, just for a year, and then Tavian just showed up. So all in 3 different points of their career, but all still learning and growing. None of them really have, a ton of significant playing experience.
Is this nerve-wracking?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think that there's been good play. There's been mistakes made, but that's part of growing. Now the question is, are you going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again? That's when, we start to get nervous. But right now, we're still kind of in that growth phase and learning phase.
Andy Andrews, 11 Warriors.
I know. I'm sure it's similar on the offensive line, still in that learning and growing pains. But we've seen, obviously, Austin Searville work plenty of tackle, and he was with the ones at that position on Saturday. How much of a factor is he in that right tackle competition?
Yeah, I think Austin's had a very good spring. He's been playing multiple positions, and I think he's a true swing player who can do both guard and tackle, and he's shown to be able to do that. And a part of that is being able to handle it mentally, making that jump. And, so he's been doing a good job of that. And like we talked about in here before, having a primary position and then a secondary position is something that we've focused on. He's getting to the point where I think he could start at either guard or tackle.
Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, obviously we just saw a snippet of the 12 days that you've had so far the other day, but it was hard to not notice what Lincoln Kienholz was doing. Just your, assessment of him and what's been good, what does he need to continue to work on, and is he in the thick of this right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You saw his potential on some of the throws that he made. You saw his athleticism show. We did, at a point, make the quarterbacks live, I think, which is the first time we've ever done that, I've ever done that. But I felt like it was important for them. And that was good to see them, move in the pocket and understand what live bullets are going to be like. And I think that's behind us now, but we got that in, and that was good. But I think that Lincoln, and I think it's the same for all the quarterbacks. We're trying to make the routine plays routinely, and I know you've heard me say that before, but that's really important to keep the offense moving. And we have good skill players, we have good pieces around them. If they can just keep the offense on track on first and second down, and then play good, smart football on third down, make the throws in a red zone, and then when it's time to win the game in a 2-minute drill, that's when they have to be special. Right now, we're to the point where we just need to make routine plays routinely. We've seen them make this spectacular. We need them to make routine plays and be consistent. And sometimes that can be boring, but that's playing the position of quarterback. And all it takes is 1 or 2 plays to ruin your entire day. We've been there before. where a quarterback can play really, really good, but one play could ruin the entire afternoon in the game. So, I'm kind of bouncing around on you, but with Lincoln, I think that's the case, but it's like that with all the quarterbacks.
Jake Trotter, ESPN.
Yeah, Ryan, what's your expectation with Jeremiah in year 2, and where can he continue to develop and grow given how young he still is?
I think everybody on the team is at a different point, and that was the message today to the team, that everybody has to continue to get better when they're on the field. Now, where is Jeremiah as opposed to Tavian St. Clair or Devin Sanchez? They're different points, but for Jeremiah, it's like, how do I get that 1% better every day? And a lot of it is learning how to become a good teammate, learning how to encourage other guys around him to play winning football, which he does. But you're starting to see him come out of his shell a bunch. He's done some route work inside in the slot, which is mostly he was outside last year. We're going to increase his route tree as time goes on. So there's a lot of things that he can improve on certainly, but getting more and more experience is part of it. But also just growing into his position and his personality on the team.
Tony Bergman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, what did Quincy Porter do to be the first freshman to lose his black stripe?
He was productive. He made a lot of contested catches. You guys were able to see that. We've seen a lot of that leading up to this point. And we don't like to get those black stripes off too early for the freshman, but he earned it, especially in a competitive live day like that, to make some of those catches. And he had a couple of catches before you guys even got in there that day that kind of lit up the group. So I like just how gritty he was, how competitive he was, and he's showing toughness, again, making those contested physical catches. And so if he can keep playing like that, he's going to find himself playing a lot of football this year.
Pat Murphy.
Ryan, going back to Jeremiah, we saw the students just mob to him afterwards. I imagine off the field he's dealing with the stardom that comes with what he accomplished last year. How do you help him manage that side of things while also doing the on-field stuff that you just talked about?
Well, Jeremiah is a fairly private person, so that is in his favor. But we've talked about it, and every time a situation like this comes up, we need to have a plan. C.J. Barnett has a big part in this, and we talked about that, and we spoke with Jeremiah even for that event there, what the plan was. He's become obviously just kind of a complete lightning rod. You see him and it's just, everybody lights up because not only what type of player he is, but who he is as a person. He's got that smile that just lights up a room, and he's just magnetic personality. So, all the recruits, when they come in, you ask them, so who'd you like at practice? Every single one of them say Jeremiah Smith. But I think with him, it's not just the ability of what he does on the field, it's how he works. It's his personality, his humility, all those things. So, but to answer your question, we have to put a plan together. He's in the city of Columbus. He's one of the most high-profile players, in the country, and certainly one of the most high-profile people in the state of Ohio now. And that's really the reality. So, putting that in place, and I know fans respect that. He's also still just a young man trying to find his way, and he is. When you look at him, you don't think of it like that, but he is. And so we put a good plan together to make sure that he has what he needs.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, 2 years ago you guys had Cody as like a third linebacker to help out the defense. Last year was Arvell. With Peyton, it seemed like every time he looked up he was making a play around the ball. Do you see that for him this year? What kind of impact will he have in your guys' defense?
Yeah, I think Peyton Pierce is thriving right now with having James and having Matt there. Matt certainly has a great background in linebacker play, and just some of the new things and some of the schemes and techniques that are going on. He's a guy that understands football at a high level. He's a great tackler. He was a high school wrestler. He can really see it. And, I think he's really coming into his own. He was coming off an injury, coming out of high school, getting here, and then you have that freshman year. Now he's got a whole off season to really train, and he's playing well here. So he's seeing things well. He's playing fast, and this is another guy that's going to have a big impact for us this year.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Going back to the quarterback, I just want to follow that up. You said that none of them have much of a gap. Is there a gap at all, even if it's small? Do you feel like one guy is, I don't say leading the race, but he's done enough to say like, hey, he's put his best foot forward?
I think it's fair to say that Tavian has probably the longest way to go just because of just the lack of experience. I think it's easy to see. You guys saw it on Saturday, the talent and his ability to run, his athleticism, the arm. He has all those things. He just needs to play more. He needs to see it more. The game's just moving really fast for him right now, but he's picking it up. He's getting it every day. So I'd say he probably has the farthest way to go, and then Lincoln and Julian are pretty much neck and neck right now.
Austin Ward, rivals.
Ryan, when you made that decision to let them go live, I think you may have done that another practice before Saturday. That's a calculated risk and one you've said you never wanted to take before. Why was that different this time, and what was the thought process to get there? Did you have to take a deep breath?
Yeah. Well, I think all three of them needed it for different reasons. I'll start with Tavian. Tavian, coming in and seeing the speed of all this. We're not going to do it in the preseason, so this was really about the only time we could do it. And I felt like he needed to feel the speed of the game, because the first time is going to be against Texas. And if the first game wasn't Texas, I don't know if we would do it, but it is, so we got to be ready. Lincoln, other than the bowl game, he really hasn't played a lot of significant football. So you start to get into a rhythm of practicing as opposed to playing. So you're sitting in the pocket, you start to feel like, you almost have a unrealistic view of your protection in there and getting a feel for that part of it. I also felt like he needed to let, he's bigger, stronger, more athletic than he's been. And I feel like he needed to let his athleticism go with some of the pocket movement things, some scrambles, just to feel what that is like. So I wanted to make sure, he got a feel, because when you're standing there as a quarterback and you're live, that's just a whole different feel. Being a quarterback, knowing what that's like, I thought that was important. And then lastly with Julian, and again, he had a few snaps last year, but hadn't really played, college live football, and so I wanted to just get that feel of what that was like. And when you're in the pocket and you get too much depth, and the defensive ends are rushing up the field, that's a sack. They're gonna whiz by you to stay off the quarterback, because that's what we do. But you got to feel what that is like. And so I felt like that was important for all three guys for different reasons. But that's probably the hardest thing for a young quarterback to understand, is standing in the pocket, when to stand in there, when to slide and create, and when to escape. And if you're not live, it's really hard to replicate that. So felt like it was important. Everybody came out alive, and so I think we feel good about that.
Stefan Kreisny, Cleveland.com.
We got to see Devin get his opportunities, whether it be against Quincy, some lined up against Jeremiah. Just where do you feel he's developing the most, and how much did he kind of capitalize on those opportunities Saturday or other practices that he's had?
You said Devin? Yeah. He just going against great wide receivers every day, and that was part of the recruiting process with him and a lot of our guys, is that you're going against great players every day across the ball, and that's how you get better. And so he's had some really good snaps, and then ones that he's grown from and learned from. But he's very, very competitive, and just like any great corner, he's got a short memory. He moves on to the next one and grows from it.
Rob Hall or Columbus Dispatch?
You're coming off a season where you broke through, won it all, and you like to talk about process. Do you feel like you found the sweet spot, and it's going spring into fall, is just rinse and repeat? Or how do you navigate this? Just do the same thing we did last year, as close to possible?
Right. No. It's coming off of last year. My initial first 2 weeks after the season was, okay, I wasn't even thinking about anything moving forward. We have to take a step back in spring. We just played 16 games. It's a long year. We have to be really smart. Our roster goes to 105. We can't afford to lose anybody. Got about a week and a half into spring and realized, the guys who left played a lot of football. The majority of these guys haven't played a lot of football. We need about 5 more weeks of spring football. We do. So we're going to petition the NCAA to see if we can get 5 more weeks, but I don't think they're going to pass that one. So it's actually become one of the most physical spring balls we've ever had. Now, guys like Caleb, guys like Sonny, some of the older guys, we've kind of pulled out a little bit. We've played a little bit more with the 2s and the 3s, getting those guys more and more reps because they need to play. They haven't played. And it's so much different when you're a backup and you flash and you make a play or two. When you're with the 2s, okay, now you're the guy that we're focusing on. You got to sustain that level of play throughout a whole game. And we call it, you got to carry water. You got to be able to do the work. And that's growing up, as we all know. And so, we're looking for a lot of these guys to take the next step with that, to be able to now take more of these reps and be able to handle that for extended periods of time, and so that's where we're growing. But we're young, inexperienced, but the more we can do this, the more we can play and get scrimmage-like environments, the better. So we're going to do that at the spring game on Saturday, just to kind of hit that format. So we'll break up offense and defense, and the first part of that will be thud, for some of the guys who have played a lot of football. But we'll be doing that, and then once that happens, after a few drives, we'll get right into it, and we'll be tackling. The quarterbacks will not be live, but everybody else will, and it'll look like a normal spring game.
Dan Holt, London Warriors.
You mentioned last week that you need to see some defensive tackles step up. Have you seen any growth in that area in terms of building depth there?
There's been flashes, but in order for us to play defense like we did last year, we're going to need those guys to step up more than they have. I think, again, there's ability there, but consistently playing at a certain level is something that's a challenge that I know that Coach Johnson is going to be pushing these guys for over and over again. And we need these guys to step up in a big way. I think that guys have gotten better for sure. I think you're seeing it. But in order to be where we need to be next year, there needs to be more and more growth as we move forward.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
Yeah, Ryan, without fail, the fan base will overreact on Sunday morning to 10 or 15 throws in this game because that's all they're seeing. I guess if you're, Professor Day, and this is the spring semester final exam, what percentage of the grade, how much do you weight a game like that as opposed to what you've seen the last few weeks?
It's a piece. It's a piece. I think about quarterbacks' journeys along the way, and you just take certain guys, now that are in the NFL, and you just start in high school, and then you go to college, and you see their journey, and some guys transfer and they go somewhere, and then they transfer somewhere else, and they finally play their best football later on, or then maybe some guys, go on and play some of their best football in the NFL. It's a process and a journey along the way. So it's hard to make hard and fast decisions sometimes with young players. The key to all of it is them being resilient and learning and growing. And the faster they can learn from their mistakes and get better, the better off they're going to be. And so I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what it's going to look like. But, this is just the beginning. I don't know, like you said, like what percentage we're there. I can't really tell you. But I know that, these guys all have to continue to grow and get better. And, part of that may be throughout the fall. I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. But the good news is all three can do it. They physically can do it. They can throw. You've seen them do that before, but it's now playing winning football for us. So the best we can do is put them in game environments. That's our job as coaches. But, they're still green.
Time for just a few more. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Right, with Lincoln and Julian being pretty much neck and neck, is this a competition you expect to go into fall camp, or is there any way to be resolved?
I mean, maybe one of these guys jumps out ahead this week and really, make some separation, which if they do, then they do. But we'll see. We'll kind of see where it goes. And tomorrow will be a big day. But then really Friday is more of a spiders practice. We have our high school clinic here. But then the spring game. So somebody would have to make a significant move here on Tuesday or Saturday to really make that move to jump ahead.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just more of a big picture thing. Whether it's Dwayne, Justin, CJ, I'll throw Kyle in there as well, and even Will, because it does seem like he's left an impact on how you view things. How have each of those guys, as a quarterback coach and a former quarterback, maybe impacted your view on the position in terms of what's important?
Yeah, you learn because when people say, like, what are you looking for, you don't always have hard and fast answers. It's just like anything else. When you watch something, you use your past experiences to try to identify and project where someone's going to be. There's certainly things that you look at, statistically, analytics that you can look at, completions, grades, all those things are great. But a lot of it is just, looking at it and knowing the position, and then, using your past experiences of where guys were in their progression, their mentality, their mindset, their ability. There's just so many things that come into play. So, yeah, I mean, whether it's those guys here or even when I was in the NFL or, Matt Ryan at Boston College, I mean, you try to use all of the different people that you've used in your past to try to identify where these guys are in their process, knowing that everybody's different.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Not a quarterback question. Do you believe that when you leave on spring practice and Saturday that you'll feel good about the position, or do you still have major concerns because of the inexperience?
No, we'll feel good. We'll feel good. We feel great. I don't know. We'll have to see how Tuesday and Saturday goes, but I think we'll definitely feel good coming out of there. I mean, we have good players, and I think the guys believe that they can do it. It's a growing process.
And final question, Tim May, Wall to Wall, and 97.1 The Fan.
Thank you, Jerry. There's a million questions, but velocity, the way the defense played on Saturday seemed to be obvious. I mean, to me at times and stuff. How pleased are you about that progress? New guys in a lot of positions over there and stuff. And am I wrong about them playing with some velocity there? And where do you want to see improve on Saturday when people are really watching again?
Well, that's why we went live to feel that velocity, because there's just a different feel when you're tagging off. Sometimes on the perimeter, thud. When you're tackling, you're rolling, you're playing fast, and those angles change quickly. So yeah, I'll say this about this group: they are competitive, they're edgy, they've given great effort on the field. That has been every practice so far. So that is something that's like a foundation you can build off of. And I think that's been excellent. And I think you saw how hard they were practicing on Saturday, and that's been, now we've condensed this thing down to 4 weeks. So we've been going back to back to back with some of these practices, and they've been physical. So I give the guys a lot of credit. I mean, that's a great jumping off point as a team. Now, if we can just keep building and growing, we'll have something.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks. Yep.
Matt? Good. All right, folks, we're going to go about 10 minutes with Matt Patricia here, and we are going to open up with Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Matt, it seems like you've got a lot of options in that secondary of what you would want to do. What have you liked about Jermaine in that slot, and also kind of a sidebar of that? How much of, when you first looked at Caleb, when you were looking on the film, were you just thinking, how many different places can I realistically put him in a game?
Yeah, I mean, when you have pieces like Caleb and guys that football knowledge that he has and his instincts, and it's been great the more that he's kind of been out there to really watch him on the field and how he moves, how he deciphers the game, and how he sees it. You love those type of players for sure, and being able to relate that to some things that we can do with him and put him in those positions is it's fun. It's fun. He's dynamic now. I mean, this guy he's smart. He plays extremely aggressive. He really knows the offense well, so like based on whether it's formation or split, like he's IDing everything, and he does a great job of communicating on the field. So he's been a lot of fun for sure. Jermaine, I mean, super competitive guy who's got great ability, speed, quickness, and then that position flex to be able to go outside, inside, and some of the things that we do coverage-wise where these guys are actually playing in a couple different positions, just based on formation and motions and things like that. It's been pretty impressive, with his skill set to be able to do all that. So it's been fun. That group is a lot of fun. They are dynamic. They have a lot of talent. They are competitive as all get out. And it's fun because, I don't think I've ever seen wide receivers this big, like all as a group. I mean, it's like every time I'm like, can you rush? Like how big? Like, I mean, these guys are ginormous. I think they're edge setters, but to have that competition every single day and to be able to go out there and watch our guys step up to that challenge is pretty awesome.
Noah Weiskopf, the Lantern.
A lot of players here have said that they want the championship stuff taken down. They don't want to see it. What does that say about this team, this group, especially the returners, and why is that significant?
Yeah. I think it's a really mature approach by them, right? I think it's something that was, I think one of the great things about football, whatever level you're at, it's different than other sports. It's different than boxing. Like when you win a championship in boxing, the next time you step in the ring, you step in as the champ and you have to defend your title. When you win a championship in football, the next time you step on the field, it's something new. It's a new season. It's a new team. You have to start over. You're not defending anything. What you won. Like that can't be taken away from you. That was last season. So I think it's a really mature approach by them for, sit there and say, hey, look, it's about going forward. We can't look back. It's about going forward. It's about building the journey this year to try to get back to where we want to be. But you have to start all over again. And you got to start at the bottom. So that's a great mentality.
Kellyanne Stitz over here to the right. WSYX.
Matt, on Saturday with the spring showcase or spring game, what are you specifically looking for out of the defense? Like, what are the goals of that day?
Yeah. I'm looking for a lot of things, actually. I'm pretty excited. Like, let's get in the shoe. Let's get the fans there. Let's feel the environment, the energy. Just getting a little bit of that last Saturday with everybody kind of in the indoor, that excitement. I think that's that's fun. You know, I mean, we're getting that feel for it. So I'm excited to see the fans. I'm excited to get the crowd. I think one of the things defensively, you're always trying to, practice in these situations, communication, right? So it's always going to be hard at home for us to communicate because our fans are great and it's going to be loud for the opponent, which is what we want. So our communication has to be on point. Our recognition has to be on point. I think, this is obviously new for me, not having in a while, having preseason games, right? So the next time we go in that stadium to play, it's for real. So just our overall operation, coaching staff, to make sure we're communicating well, make sure we're getting substitutions and personnel groups and all of that, this is a good opportunity for us to get a dry run at that before, we get to that first game. So that's really important. And then, of course, we want to see everybody compete, the different positions and the different opportunities that everybody has to go out and, get a chance to look at that tape and get another evaluation of where they're at. So there's a lot. It's going to be great. I can't, let's go. It's going to be awesome.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How would you break down the safety competition between Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain opposite Caleb right now?
Yeah. I think it's been really good with both those guys learning and competing and playing a couple different roles, a couple different spots. And Caleb is out there for some things, and there's other things that we're holding them back on. So they've actually had an opportunity to both be out there quite a bit and really to be able to evaluate the different things that they can do skill set wise. I think there's some different packages that we can run with those guys on the field and different alignments that they could be in. So it's just a great evaluation right now of seeing some deep field play, some down in the box play, some maybe man-to-man coverage stuff with them. We've got some different things in that intermediate zone where they're kind of reading routes and breaking. And I would say both are really shining and showing their skill sets that we can utilize them in those situations.
Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
Peyton Pierce, what have you seen from him this spring? Because we saw him everywhere on Saturday.
Yeah. One thing about Peyton Pierce right away, we go to inside drill or anything, everyone's going to feel Peyton Pierce right away. He comes downhill with a physicality that it's phenomenal. He is a physical player. I think one of the other things on top of that, so he's doing a great job with all that. But to build on that, his communication, his command, linebacker, you have to be able to get in there, call the huddle, make sure we get adjustments right, get the front correct, communicate with the back end. And I think that's the piece of it right now for me that's really improved through the spring is just his overall command, understanding of the defense, and then his communication to get everybody, kind of set and lined up and ready to go. It's been good.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
You're in the NFL, if you don't have depth at defensive tackle, for instance, you can go out, you can sign guys, you can make trades. Here, you just have to develop those guys, right? How do you feel like that has come along, and how different is that for you, knowing that, hey, these are the guys we got, maybe the transfer portal after spring, but these are the guys we're working with?
Yeah. I think you always want to develop players. I think that's the best thing to do within a system is to try to, you want to groom them, you want to grow them, you want to increase their skill set and their fundamentals because, those are the guys you're working with every single day. And it is similar. There's only certain times of the year, even in the NFL, where you can actually add to your roster. So you're going to get to points where your roster is what it is. And I think the guys that have been able to show also position flexibility, so whether they can move out to different techniques, whether it's a 5 to a 3 or a 3 to a shade back out to a 3, those are the guys then that's where your depth comes. So maybe you're a guy that's maybe a backup nose guard that, you'd rather have him out there and then move the other guy out to a 3 technique. So it's really kind of that structure of where those guys can go. But I think you're always trying to develop, always trying to bring those guys along. And, it's like I tell them, just prove us right. That's why you're here. We believe in you. We know you can go do it. So we're going to do everything we can to help you, achieve everything you want to. And that's going to be the best for the team. So, I think those guys are working really hard. Coach Johnson does a great job. I mean, all the drill work. If you get a chance to watch Coach Jay do his drill work, it's the detail of the hand placement and the footwork and the, just the coaching points that he puts them through. Those guys they're blessed to be in that situation to get all of that information. And then those guys that just continually build on that and grow, as a player, you can really see that, you can see why those guys develop every single year.
Austin Ward, Rivals.
To follow up on that defensive line, where from day one through the end of 3 weeks do you think you've seen the most progress up there?
It's a good question. I would say, I think the guys have done a really good job with the multiplicity of some of the things that we're doing right now, and moving around and kind of being in some different spots just to kind of get an evaluation of it, to see if we can have some of that depth and put them in those alignments. So I think that's been pretty impressive. I think our pad level has gotten better. I think that's one of the things when you start out and you're back in practice and you're rolling, and it's the beauty of spring ball. We actually have we have equipment on, so you actually get to evaluate this stuff and not have to wait till training camp, which is awesome. So we've made strides there, hand placement, pad level, which is, leverage up front, which is what we're going to need. So that would be the biggest area I've really seen, like, guys just kind of really getting better technique.
Far right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
With Caleb not needing as much work this spring, how much has that benefited the other guys? Obviously, they all just move up a spot on the depth chart this spring. And what have you seen from Jalen and Malik and maybe Leroy that you wanted to see this spring?
Yeah, I think there's always opportunity when guys aren't on the field, and certainly you want Caleb on the field. He's really good and kind of helps settle the communication. He's a great player. But look, when guys aren't on the field, it's an opportunity for someone else to go in and step into some different roles and have an opportunity to go make some plays and flash, for the coaches and for their teammates. I think all of those guys, that you mentioned have done that, and have done it at different points. And now it's just building on the consistency of that, whereas you have a player like Caleb that has proven that he can consistently show that kind of production and that performance. Those other guys are now having those reps to be able to have enough, built up to show that, hey, they can do it consistently and be in the right positions and make the communication and make the plays. So that's been the best part about it for those guys, just having all of those reps. And, again, I say this one too, we only have so many games, so you have to get better at practice. It's just what it is. It's different than, like I said, baseball, you play games to get better. Football, we got to practice to get better. And I think having those guys to be able to have those reps has been invaluable.
Time for just a couple more. Far left, Jake Trotter, ESPN.
Yeah, hey Matt, what has been your impression of Jeremiah this spring, especially given your NFL background?
Really, again, like I said before, just outstanding kind of just presence out on the football field. That's probably the biggest thing I would say. Just his ability to kind of just calm things down and go play, and really good player, obviously. But that'd probably be the biggest thing. Yep.
Gabe Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
You've talked about adjusting your scheme to the strength of your players defensively. Is the 4-2-5 the best formation for you guys? And how much 3 linebacker sets do you plan on using?
Yeah. I think, 4-2-5 or the nickel sets, and the variations of those nickel sets are just so prominent in football right now because there's so much 11 personnel. And then the 12 personnel, which is the 2 tight end sets that play like 11 or the open up formation. So you got to be a little bit multiple to be able to do all of that. But, when you got to get in base and get into, 3 linebackers or some version of that, you have to be able to stop the run. And certainly that, I think, also picks up critical situations, whether it's third down, low red area, or you're just getting bigger offensive personnel groups out there. So having all of that is important. Being able to be multiple out of the nickel packages is something I think that's really important too. And then there's different variations of those nickel packages that, with as much talent and which is much the guys that we have in that room, I think we can do some of that and be versatile that way, which would be great.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
With the emergence of Peyton Pierce playing the way he is right now, does that free you up maybe to do things with a guy like Arvell that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do if you didn't have a proven third linebacker behind those guys?
Yeah, Arvell, he's definitely has a different skill set, so there's a lot of things I think you can do with him and having that depth at linebacker and to the point of being able to play, nickel defense, being 3 for 2 in that position, or sometimes 4 for 2, where you can rotate guys through. That allows you to move those other guys around into other spots. And I think Arvell's got a skill set that, we're taking a look at some of those things right now to see how much he can do. And you certainly want him to be great in the role that he's in. You got to make sure that that's solidified and ready to go. But moving him around, I think, makes it difficult for people to try to figure out what he's doing. Absolutely.
And final question, Tim May, wall-to-wall and 97.1.
Hey, thanks. Coach, legend has it, like, I forgot the year, but you went through like 11 safeties in the safety spots at New England, maybe 13 if you count Gronkowski as a Hail Mary dude and stuff like that. What did that year, teach you about teaching?
Yeah.
What did you learn from all of that? And I'm thinking college is a kind of a similar bag,
Yeah, I think it's just conceptual teaching, I think, is what you're really trying to do at that point. When you have guys that either, whether it's injury or position depth, if you can teach it in a conceptual way and then you can kind of plug people into different spots, I think it goes a lot longer than just kind of, memorization of this assignment. Like I have this assignment on this play, this assignment on this play. So maybe a little bit of a bigger picture teaching, conceptual teaching that those guys now that come in understand the concept, and now they can plug themselves into different roles within that concept. We were actually just walking through that with the backers too a little bit. It's the same idea for them. You know, it's just we have a coverage concept, and it's like, all right, well, you know, this is the structure behind it. This is the structure underneath it. Doesn't really matter where you are right now. Just understand like we need to have this, 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 and this, and based on the communication, those are the rules that you can play. So when you can understand the defense, I think in that way, then you can plug and play a little bit more, or make guys more versatile and have more depth, you know, value to the roster.
How challenging was that, though? I mean, I would think from week to week.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's always, you know, it's always tough when you get guys in on Tuesday night and you got Wednesday and you got a couple of days to get ready to go play a game. But you know, I think the beauty of that is, you know, I think you get them up to speed as fast as you can, but you also try to understand what do you think you can actually do with them that week. You know, don't put too much on them. You know, you just want to be able to still play fast and aggressive. They have to go play the game. So you got to find the right balance of like, hey, this is the amount of information we can give you and the time that we have to practice so that we can go perform at a high level. Yep.
Coach, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
appreciate it. Thanks so much. Good to see everybody. Saturday.
All right, Coach, thanks for some time today. And in lieu of today, Coach Hartline will not be available tomorrow to talk.
Really? Dang. Come on, man. You're robbing the people. You're robbing the people.
Today should be offense, tomorrow should just be about the wide receiver.
Okay.
Break it out.
Brian's a great guy. I'm sure
Don't lie to the people.
But today, John Tamari, BNS.
Coach, take a look at the quarterback race. What are you seeing, and what should we take away from what we saw Saturday?
I don't know. What did you see Saturday? You know, I think that they're competing at a high level, which I appreciate. I think earlier in spring I identified that, you know, their preparation outside of the allotted time on their own to prepare for practices is very apparent. That's continued. I think that they are very hard on themselves, which they need to be. We are as well. You know, the expectations here is the highest in college football, and they know that. I think that we're chasing consistency across the board, not just quarterbacks, just every position, frankly. And, you know, that position more than ever. I mean, that's the only guy that's going to touch the ball every play, him in the center. So, you know, what he does and how he protects that ball and facilitates for his O-line and his skill positions is really important. The guys are doing a good job. Really proud of where they're at. Probably, you know, Coach will handle most of those conversations and Coach Fessler. But, you know, I can't say it's ever good enough. That's college football. That's Ohio State. But they're on a good trajectory, and I appreciate the way they've gone about each day.
Dan Holt, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, how do you feel like the depth is coming along at wide receiver? Are you seeing, you know, those 4, 5, 6 guys that you want to have there?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a group, I should say, forming. How deep that is, I'm not fully sure yet. I mean, it's definitely coming along. Very encouraged with the young guys, though. The freshmen that have come in, they're competing. They are, you know, making mistakes, but quicking the mistakes quickly and not making repeated mistakes. They're making some plays. There's probably some consistency level at which they, you know, you wish it was a little better, but they're doing a good job taking meetings to the field. So lots of encouraging sign early on, and I anticipate that to continue through summer.
Jake Trotter, ESPN.
Yeah, Brian, you know, off the season that Jeremiah just had, you know, how have you challenged him this spring, this off season, and where can he still develop and grow given how young he still is?
Yeah, he's really young. I think that, you know, he doesn't operate like that. He operates, you know, beyond his years. But you know, the techniques and the fundamentals, he's chasing like a lot of the guys. I mean, you get to a certain point where you're doing a really good job. You're chasing that 1%. You're chasing that finite growth. It's not always seen on film. The individual may feel it, whether it be your base or your technique and the consistency at which you do those things. That's what he's chasing. I think he's chasing football IQ, learning more about the game, defensive structure, anticipation more than reactionary. But there's always ways to grow. I mean, if you try to mark the goals of these young men and where they currently are, they're obviously not where they want to be. So whatever that gap that needs to get filled, that's what he's chasing. So I'm sure he has some of the highest goals, and he's not that right now. So he is chasing that gap, minimizing that gap, and he's doing a good job being hard on himself.
Over to the right, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Brian, you've been on staff with him now for a couple of weeks. What have your impressions been of Tyler Bowen as a recruiter and how he's handled himself on that recruiting trail?
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's a great dude, man. Like, I enjoy talking with him. I like being around him. Very smart from a football standpoint. I love the way he views things. I love mechanically how he tries to, help these guys execute plays based on body mechanics and leverages and strike points. I just like, his view on things. So I enjoy that. But as you're talking football and doing, I enjoy talking to him and being around him as a person too. So his ability to connect with guys doesn't shock me. I mean, I connect with him. So, but I've been very impressed with the amount of young men that have visited and been on campus, and I just think he's putting a lot of time into it, a lot of effort, and it's definitely showing. So he's doing one heck of a job, and we're just trying to help him out as we can.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan was mentioning the idea of increasing Jeremiah's route tree, something you guys have been working on. Where was it last year, and where can it, I guess, grow, or can you just kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, just asking JJ to do everything. You don't ever want to put him in a box. You don't want to put Carnell in a box. You don't want to put anybody in a box. So to make sure he's fully equipped with every tool necessary to do anything that's required of a receiver at the college level or the NFL level. We take a lot of pride in developing that route tree technique, but it's really, the play with the mind of, routes based on coverage and all those things. So, but yeah, just trying to find ways to challenge them, and that's been one of the ways we've done that.
Austin Ward, Rivals.
Ryan, when you guys were talking as an offensive staff about the possibility of having the quarterbacks go live, were you surprised that it came up? Were you surprised that you guys wound up doing it? What were the deliberations?
I'm surprised it's even a conversation. Like, it should always be live. That's how you play football. So obviously there's a proximity to the season, which is a little reckless. I understand that. But in spring, when you're competing for jobs, if I'm a quarterback, I'm asking to be live so I can show him how I'm different than, anyone that can't be live. You know what I mean? You're always trying to find an edge. And if you're never fully live, I don't think you fully give guys opportunity to be who they want to be or be who they can be. So that being said, I will cast my vote, but that will not be my final decision on that. But I will cast my vote. The guys have handled it well. It was good for all parties involved. And the more we can do that, the better. But I'm sure that is coming to a close here very quickly. So.
Pat Murphy, 24/7.
Brian, Jeremiah off the field, we saw after practice on Saturday, the mob that came to get autographs and things. When you're working with him on all these things you're talking about, but also dealing with the life of being one of the biggest names in college football, how do you help mentor him in that aspect of things?
Yeah, it's a blessing to be able to be in a position where can provide insight or I wouldn't say recommendations, but just give perspective. How he chooses to receive the perspective or not want it or not, he always does, but which is fine. But to be in that position is really humbling. That being said, he does a really good job on his own. He doesn't need checked on too much. He's really done a great job. Again, the way he was raised and his morals and humbled, always signing, taking pictures. I'm always trying to be the bad guy for him because he's not going to be. And just says, again, more about his character. But he's not the only, he's not the only guy. Any guy would kind of do that. We have a group full of awesome young guys. But Jeremiah's done a great job with it, handling it. And it's definitely growing at an exponential rate, to say the least. But I think he's built for it, and he's been handled at a high level. But those around him, we're trying to help him out a little bit. Yeah.
What made Quincy the first freshman to lose his black stripe this year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think that, frankly, I'm not really fully involved with that. So I can be, but I wasn't. I think that people on the outside, whether it be defense or even Coach Day or anybody brought it to my attention, we were kind of just going about practice, and that's our expectation, to make plays, not make mistakes. And he was starting to make a lot of plays consistently. And I think the consistent level that he's been as a person, being on time and doing his job description on each play, and the ball is coming your way, you're making some big plays, and it starts being seen by your peers, and your peers start asking for it. They start barking, get his stripe off, all those kind of things. That's the ultimate sign of respect, I think, when your peers go to your bat, and he's not going for his bat. No one else, people are bringing it to your position coach. I think it speaks volumes of the general respect that you're earning through the process. So I think something like that happened, and it was well deserved based on his peers and the other coaches.
Stefan Kreisnig, Cleveland.com.
Ryan Day was talking about how impressed he's been this spring with Austin Saraville, all that he's been able to do, and Tyler Bowen was talking last week about the importance of the cross training and all that goes into that. Just how much have you seen Austin benefit from this spring and everywhere that he's been, and how big of a piece do you think he's going to be regardless of where he fits on this offensive line?
Yeah, I think Austin's been awesome. I mean, he literally, I don't know what I'm going to say. He's played every position. We just move him around, and he handles it. And, he's one of those guys, I feel like you watch film over and over again, day after day, and his name never really gets brought up, in a good way. Like, the O-line, your name gets brought up when usually not going as well, I mean, they're literally at the point of attack on every single play. So there's nowhere to hide. And so, but Austin, when his name gets brought up, it's like, man, that was a good job. Right, good job, pass off that combo, whatever. It's always positive, and been really impressed with him. It started in the winter, did a great job through the winter. Again, continuing to build the respect for his peers, and then he's done a good job, really good job, just being very consistent through spring.
Far left, Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Brian, since you've been working more with the whole offense, when it comes to quarterback play, what has grown in your appreciation of that position and what those guys have to do and go through? What do you think more about those guys versus maybe what you thought before as just a wide receiver guy?
Yeah, I mean, there's no just a wide receiver guy. If you are just a wide receiver guy,
That way, but
you won't be a very long. It's all about quarterback play, So I think in that same world, though, to the point is that, in order to be a great receiver or receiver guy, whatever you want to call it, there's only one page, it's the quarterback's page. So everything is based off them. Whether it be their progression, their timing, the stresses they have is what we're trying to minimize. So if you don't fully understand the quarterback play, it's hard to, maximize receiver play, I think. That being said, I'm still always learning. I think that I can't say anything's jumped out massively right now, but I would say that I guess I would say the preparation level, what is required to execute and play at a high level is just not capable in the allotted time, right? There's only so much time we're allowed to be with players. If you're not willing to spend, your own time getting prepared for practice to maximize one's ability, there's a good chance you're not going to maximize your ability. So, other positions, O-line, same thing. Receiver play sometimes can get away from it. We do a great job studying and being in the room extra for sure. But the requirement of a quarterback to know, to fix protections, to be our run game coordinator based on the calls, to get us in different checks. There's so much they need to know. And frankly, the O-line's only as good as the quarterback. The receiver's only as good as the quarterback. The offense is only as good as the quarterback. And it's our responsibility to put guys in position to maximize what they're capable of maximizing. But their inability to notice that they need to spend extra time outside the allotted time, I think is critical. And the amount that it takes, I guess I was maybe a little naive to, but the guys are doing a great job doing it.
Got time for just a couple more. Coach has got a meeting. Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Brian, you guys reached the mountaintop. You got a banner out there, national champs. How do you keep these guys grounded, being in the moment, looking ahead, not back? Do
Are you tougher on them because?
No, I think that, I mean, I think we have a lot of guys, you know, I think it's understanding that we were trying to build the map to get to where you wanted to get to, but now that we have the map, doesn't mean we've traveled the path. So, like, we know what it looks like. The guys that are here know what it's supposed to look like. The guys before us set an unbelievable example of how to get to where you want to get to. So the focus is on trying to replicate what they just did and how they operated. We can't say we've done that right now. So it's very easy to stay motivated because they already know it's not good enough, frankly. And so the last thing they want to do is put in a ton of effort and then not reach their goals. So motivation, I don't think is needed. I think there is a catching up of those that maybe aren't quite sure what it takes, but overall, motivation is not what we've needed. Clarity of message is definitely what we've been focused on, and I think the message is being received. So, not concerned about motivation and the looking back, if you will. I think everyone's pretty focused on being forward and knowing we haven't accomplished anything. So,
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Who would you say is the leader of your wide receiver room right now?
I would say Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, probably have done the most outspoken, in the room. Yeah, I would say that they're doing a good job. Those are probably the two guys that would jump out of my room. Yep.
I mean, because Brandon, he's been vocal, obviously. Carnell taking on that role more and being more vocal. He's a good football player, obviously, there's things he's got to do there, but that process for him and becoming a more vocal leader, for you to say that about him.
What was the question?
Carnell, like, what have you seen, like, the growth from that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pulled guys aside, and had one-on-one conversations with them. He's locked into, I think he saw the impact that Emeka made and the role he played, and to think that you're going to lose that and then be a better group probably doesn't mathematically make sense to him. So someone's got to step up in that role. And one, everyone respects him. Two, he knows he's capable of it. And it's just the desire and the appreciation, I think, to be at the older table now, at the older head, and appreciate the way Emeka probably went about his business. And so he probably valued that, appreciated that, and he's just making sure we still have that.
Final question, Bill Rubin with Columbus Dispatch.
Could you assess the running back room? I think it's pretty much assumed both those running backs, CJ and James, think that a tandem system is probably the way you got to go again. How do you think how is it working, and do you see third and maybe fourth guys hopping in there?
I think that, in college football, or NFL football, any football really, you got to have depth in the running back room. I think that it's very apparent in the NFL. It's usually a two-back system. Very rarely is it one guy. But in college, I think we saw the benefit of that last year. The ability to complement each other is really important. I think the ability for us to identify what they do great and put them in good positions to be what they are, and what they're best at, I should say, is really important as a coaching staff. I've been very impressed with even the younger guys, Sam and Bo, and the way they've come along. Consistency is still what you're chasing, right? You're always able to. That's why you're here. But how often you do it ultimately dictates how much you play. So, but overall, I think Locke's been on them. They understand the standard in pass pro, and not being a guy we got to sub out because you can't pass protect. So we were blessed, especially with Trey last year and Quinshawn. So, but no, these guys have done a good job. They're competing. They've been very coachable. It's shown up a lot on film. Yeah, I mean, it's always hard on backs. I mean, every opportunity you get to go live and break tackles really gives you the most feedback on what these guys are capable of. If you're just playing tag out there, you never get any yard. At least you shouldn't. But the running backs, on contact days have done a good job. James has done a really good job growing. Really excited about him. Everyone's really excited about him and CJ. I think ultimately, how good the group be is probably based on, the bottom rising, right? I mean, you're gonna have some guys at the top, but where's the floor? And so I think Bo and Sam, those guys have done a really good job, and we need some more guys to get healthy, more guys on campus, but very encouraged.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.